Welcome to Coast Vue. This is the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such an amazing place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, the 2023 Mockingbird Songwriters Music Festival is coming up. This is something I talk about every year because I've been the last couple of years. And I'm going to go ahead and invite my friend Steve Azar into the conversation, the music and cultural ambassador for Mississippi, the singer-songwriter, the just amazing dude extraordinaire. Back to Coast Vue. How you doing, my friend?
I love being here. Hello there, Kyle. I got a little shout out to Kyle in the backdrop.
Kyle's there. Say hello, Kyle.
Hello, everybody. How you doing, Steve?
Like disrupt the day a little bit. There you go.
No, we go with the flow on this show. Yeah. Hey, listen, what's interesting is your Songwriters Music Festival is coming up. We're going to talk about that. We're going to just generally catch up. There's a lot to talk about. But, man, before we go any further, I just want to say that the catastrophic tornadoes that hit the Delta, man, that hits home with you, doesn't it, buddy?
Right down the street. I mean, it's literally just south of us. Already dealt with the pumps, the flooding, our farmers, where a lot of the devastation happened and started, and then made its way through parts of our Mississippi. Resilient group, farmers, man, but at the same time, it's awful.
Yeah.
So it's going to take all hands on deck. A lot of people have already started to help. It's pretty amazing. And I've been doing a bunch of shows now for Viking. I'm just give you the generosity and compassion of corporations and folks. The second it happened, the next morning, I get an email from the folks at Viking, who the river cruises are stopping here. We're putting on this big show, big extravaganza for them. The band's playing. It's just so much going on. It's wonderful. And developed a great relationship with them very fast. They reached out and said, we want to send a Cisco truck full of provisions, food, water, everything. Where do we do that? So they ended up sending it to the armory there. And then, and it was within 24 hours. It happened on Sunday. They had provisions, and then then they wanted to do a big cash donation, and they don't want me to say how much, but it was substantial. So hooked them up with the Community Foundation of Washington County, who had already been set up for the pumps, for the not being able to farm and everything they were going through. So they did that as well. It's all done that quick. I've had friends from Music City, all my songwriter pals that's coming down to the Mockingbird. Every single one of them. What can we do? When can we do it? Folks from all over the country that come in for our Delta Soul Celebrity Gotham charity event. What do we need to do? Where do we send the money? Where do we send whatever? I mean, so I love seeing the active compassion in our country and from people around that we've developed relationships with that are so fast to helping. It's just beautiful. But we got a lot of it's devastating.
Yeah, listen, I shared something on my show last week. I want to just share a little segment of what I shared last week. But after Katrina, I wrote a series of lessons about Katrina. Mm-hmm. And this one was called Serve Others Selflessly. One of the interesting things about what happens, and maybe I'm sure this happens all over the country, but there's something about Mississippi. We're more resilient than others, maybe because we've been hit with floods and tornadoes and the worst natural disaster in American history and economic challenges. And I mean, you name it, but we're resilient. And here's the thing. Here's a section of what I read last week. I called them the 1,000 Points of Light: church groups, nonprofit groups, entire communities, entire states. Mm-hmm. Individuals came to the hurricane-stricken area. This is true of the tornado-stricken areas. This has been an amazingly positive aspect of the terrible disaster. What we have seen and learned about the selfless spirit of others and the dogged desire to lend a helping hand. People who lost everything turned the help away while giving volunteers directions to others who they believed had bigger needs. The human spirit is so resilient. In my community, in my work in the community since the storm, I've observed people with much greater needs and much greater damage than I, who ever dreamed of having, who are setting a selfless, serving, sleepless, inspiring pace. I'm inspired by these people, and they come in every walk of life. Katrina and this tornado that you experienced in the Delta was an equal opportunity destroyer. The disaster cut across socioeconomic boundaries. You can see that when Katrina wiped away, in this case, the tornado wiped away, the confusing, divisive, and defining characteristics of those boundaries and left us with the essence of the human spirit, an unbelievably inspiring lesson about who we are and what we are to each other. And the lesson is simply this: serve others selflessly and tirelessly. When the going gets tough, the world gets small. We need each other. We are human, period. Find a way to serve others. It's inspiring to see people just converging on that place to help the people there, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. And even back up a little further, when the water crisis was in Jackson, my music attorney, who I haven't talked to in quite a while, I talk to him when I need him in New York, said, Steve, I want to talk about having a concert. I represent 50 Cent. I represent da-da-da. He goes, what can I send? Where can I send it? He was so moved by that. It's amazing, the human spirit. It's just, and we see in the news all the time, all the bad stuff. And obviously the bad stuff is seeing the devastation of Rolling Fork and beyond in our Mississippi. But you don't really hear the stories of who's coming. The cavalry's coming. You don't get to get those feel good stories right after the fact. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So, that's the beautiful. Those are the opportunities. Unfortunately, unfortunate opportunities are the times when people show their heart.
I know, their heart and their soul. When the going gets tough, the world gets small. We need each other. Period.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, we've seen it. Well,
and listen, buddy. I mean, listen. You can call it divine intervention. There's some providential lessons in all of this, but the fact that you wrote the new state song from Mississippi, One Mississippi, there's no better time to see One Mississippi than after a disaster like this. I mean, we can't, it is what it is. It happened. Yeah. But what we see and learn about each other in the aftermath is a proclamation to the song One Mississippi, isn't it?
I saw Ole Miss tweeted that hashtag One Mississippi, and that was so cool. Last week, I was in Enid, Mississippi at Sharon Farms, over 300 kids in elementary school from Pope, Mississippi, and they literally sang every syllable of every word. That 6-minute song, right? And I said, you guys don't know that. They knew it all, and I'm telling you, I got a hug from just about every one of them, and just to see them do that, it just makes me go, okay, that's amazing. So I'm getting the gratification of when I can to slip out and go to schools and go to places. I'm going to do it for as long as they'll let me do it. You got a picture of it. I love it. Look at that. Is that not awesome?
Yeah, that's all these kids. And yeah. I saw your social media post about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, isn't it something to see kids fired up about that song? And man, learning that song, Steve, like you said, it's a drove the Chevy to the levee kind of song.
It's long. But hey, Mississippi deserves long because you got to touch on everything. But at the same time, we got the Sarah Frances Hardy in our children's book will be debuted, I believe, at the Mississippi Book Festival in Jackson in August. Hardback version's being made right now. And she has taken the lyric and with her illustrations and acted out the entire song. And it is a beautiful walk through Mississippi history. I've never seen anything like it. These 7 little beautiful kids she created. So that's coming. This has been the most fun, rewarding experience musically of my entire life. I can't explain it. And the more that we get to do stuff like this, the more I get excited. I just get excited.
Well, it's interesting. It's sort of like a snowball rolling down the hill. First of all, Mississippi had the leadership to go through the process to adopt a new flag and replace the flag that was divisive. Like it or not, it was divisive. Yeah. And now we have a flag we can all rally around. And to take that next step and take the song, the prior song, the prior state song from Mississippi has an incredibly terrible history to it. Yeah, it does. And then we signed up for the new song, the new state song. Those are the stories that people need to be talking about. I mean, too often people want to divide us, Steve. They want everything to be about division, and Mississippi doesn't get it. But actually, we get it. We get it.
Every time you and I both know that we bring in people from afar, from any state line, right? From any country, they don't want to leave. And they They tell us that exact thing and they go, this is what we thought and this is what it really is. And that is the ultimate reward. We're like the greatest surprise. Open us up and get ready. It's a big hug. And I just love it. Yeah, I love it. It is an ultimate surprise when you come into our state line. That's for sure.
One of the things that, and I said this on my show, in fact, I said it just in the past week or so, but when you look at the Jackson water crisis and I'm not trying to draw you into this, but you look at the crime issue that they're facing in Jackson and all the efforts to try to solve that and come together on that. But what happens is media writes stories about it, and they want everything to be about race. They want to sort of, and this is some media inside the state writing stories that want to confirm this perception of us that you and I, in traveling all over the United States, has seen and been able to overcome through our own experiences and through our own sort of compelling story about what has happened in Mississippi. Listen, at the end of the day, we've made a lot of progress. There's always more progress to make. There's no question about that. But when you consider where we came from and where we are today, that you see in the aftermath of that tornado, man, we're in a better place. It's unfortunately, some people divide us. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue to have our conversation with Steve Azar. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have my friend Steve Azar, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi. And, he's just we've become brothers, man. We've become brothers. And I love when I have Steve on the show because it's a great opportunity for he and I to connect. But listen, Steve, in my career, I have had responsibility for newspapers across 5 states. I've had responsibility for strategic planning across the United States. I've traveled literally all over this country. I know you have looped it a bunch of times during your career. Mm-hmm. And I remember, 20, 30 years ago when I would go in to do a presentation or be asked to go give a speech somewhere, I would always spend just a little bit of time dispelling the myths about Mississippi. This is the Mississippi that you think about. Let me show you the Mississippi that really exists. In the wake of Hurricane Katrina, Governor Barber had me speak to national conventions, to international conventions, where he wanted me to tell the Katrina story about how we came together with lots of video and photos and all of that. The truth is, as I said before we went to the break, we've made a lot of progress. There's still more progress to make. But these people who want to drive wedges into the history of Mississippi and make it look as though we're as divided now as we've always been, that's just so ridiculous. And the experience I get when people come here to visit us, it's the same story that you tell as well. They are blown away with what's in the heart and soul of Mississippians, and you see it in the wake of the tornado. But it is a burden that we have, isn't it, when we travel to other places to dispel those myths? I
was in to sort of shine a light on what you're saying. We were in LA and outside of LA, Newport Beach Film Festival with our son Strax Film, and his stars are African American that came down to Mississippi for 2.5, 3 months, shot their movie, and have starting to have success, starting to win some awards and stuff. So it's awesome. We're excited for that. But the one girl, the younger girl, said that came down, African American actress, said that she was, oh no, you can't go there. You can't go shoot that movie there. You can't do that. She loved the script so much. And she goes, something just told me to go. And she goes, now I can't wait to go back and visit. I didn't want to leave. She said this on stage. She goes, a totally different picture of everything I've been told or read about or seen on TV. She goes, there's nothing like it. And she goes, I was there long enough to, for it to, if it was magic dust or a facade, for it to wear down. And she goes, it couldn't. And she goes, she can't wait to come back. She said, it's like a second home. Reggie Smith, great baseball player, when he comes down to our Delta Soul, he grew up in a time where he had to be in, sleep in separate hotel rooms, like the movie Green Book. He was a great baseball player, one of the greatest. And he comes here and he comes a week early. We said, no, Reggie, you don't need to come yet. He goes, oh, I got my friend Johnny McWright. I got to see my friends. And he wants to be here. He wants to work with kids for a little baseball clinic, even when there's only 14 that shows up. And that's what he does for a living now. In L.A., he's got 1,000 D1 scholarship players and 26 major leaguers at a time. And he comes down here and 14 people show up, but he wants to work with them like there's 1,000 of them, But he loves our Delta. That's the experience we have. It's the same story 1,000% of the time. And, I do it, I write about it in song. And so hopefully now we have the state song. So obviously that gives it a big opportunity to shine a light on what I see and what you see and what so many of us see. And I get to play that in every state. I've seen every state stand up and give a standing ovation. It's crazy. In Arkansas, they're not supposed to be standing up for our state song, but they do. So they applaud it and they love it. And I love that. And so I've always written about what's beautiful in our state, and the people are the beginning of it. We both know the past, but at some point, media and folks, they just got to stop and look at, it's like I tell my kids when they're down about one thing or they see something that bothers them in the media, they're very affected. And I go, now look for something that makes you smile and look for something else, because you're going to find that if you work hard enough to see the beautiful people and the beautiful things that are happening in our lives. Don't let one article, one group of people, this shine such a negative light on the big picture.
Yeah.
But media seems to want to divide. I mean, it's an unfortunate thing, and I've just been blessed with the ability to sing and write about it, and there's nothing anti about it. It's all pro. I love it.
Hey, listen, you mentioned your son's film, Banality. Banality, Banality. I think it is. Banality is the name of the movie.
Me, but the media guy.
I sent you a sort of my review of it after I watched it, and I was touched by the film. It has a kind of a Fargo for people who watch the movie Fargo. It's got this sort of darkness about it, this pace about it. And what you see is excellent cinematography, incredible writing, incidentally. It's the scenes of the Mississippi Delta. The actors are incredible. The actors that you just mentioned, really incredible. It's kind of it's just a little masterpiece, Steve. I'm not surprised that it's winning awards, but I really want to. Strack did an incredible job with his partners on this movie. And the reality is that I think, it's not a big surprise that it's getting attention, and people ought to go pay attention to it. Go watch it.
Well, it's about to, they're, bless their hearts, they're in the middle with distribution now. And distribution, the music that he chose for this film makes the movie. I mean, Strack's very musical. Even though he's not in the music business, he's always been very musical with his films. It's like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So in a way, they want a little bit of more stock to be in the trailer music. They wanted, Sherman Augustus is in Stranger Things now. So he's the lead actor, and they wanted him on the cover, which makes all the sense in the world to me. So the cover that they want looks a little cooler than the cover that they need to get it distributed. I think a lot of times media, that people in our business, on the music business and all that, they don't understand the people. When things are a little complicated, like you're talking about with Fargo and the Coen brothers and all these guys that write these incredibly deeper, heavier movies, at some point, if you give folks the opportunity to see it and let them make the decision, it's not as complicated as you think. And people like things that make them think and feel in different ways. And a lot of times you may not understand it, but you feel it. Right. So in a song. So sometimes you want to spoon feed everything, but I get what these guys are doing, and they're doing what they're telling them to do. But it's interesting to watch that process versus my music process. They're so similar in that regard. But the good news is I told Strack, I said, and he's good with it. He just said he doesn't want to put what it's not. He didn't want to say what it's not in a trailer or in a picture. He wants people to go, oh, that's the same thing that's in the film. But I said, look, the guts of what it all needs to be is the film itself. So anyway, I'm just watching them go through this little time in their life. They've never had to do that before. And it's a good time, and it's an exhilarating time, and they're learning a lot. So
if he's got more of that kind of quality inside of him. By the way, I pointed out to you when I sent you the note that music was something that really was appealing. Banality, I even said for people, go look up the word banality, but I think it should be called the anti-banality. But there's a great underlying message to
that. Trust me, that was talked about. It's funny that you talked about that, because Strack always was wondering. But it's funny. It's just funny. It's almost like with I Don't Have to Be Me Till Monday, when I walked into my publisher. He goes, "You mean you don't want to be yourself till Monday?" No, you mean you do want to be yourself till Monday. I said, "What?" I said, "I'm so confused." But there's a fine line between the two. They both make sense. But by the way, the music in this movie, none of us mind. I was not even asked to do any music. So isn't that funny? No, but no, I stay out of his thing. He's got this particular interest and vibe and thing about songs that fit his film. It's amazing. He really gets it. And he likes to dig deep into the past. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah. It wasn't Steve Azar like music. It was this
no.
interesting kind of dark mood setting kind of. I remember it well though, and you combine that to the Delta scenes and the acting and the pace. The cinematography is the thing that hits me because of the way it's framed. These beautiful scenes, my goodness.
Guys, man, they did it. They came out of Chapman all together, and one's a cinematographer, one's Strack's the director, writer, one's his partner in crime as well, Michael, and they had all they were all in school together.
Yeah.
So, that younger generation, they all are helping each other with all their projects, which allowed them to afford to film it, to do it on such a high level.
Yeah.
They're all betting on the end result together.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to watch that.
Pretty amazing. I mean, Strack had done your Something in the Water documentary, which was terrific. People, go ahead.
In college, yeah,
as a freshman in college. People, you can go look that up on YouTube. There's Something in the Water, and it's a documentary about Steve working with the Kingsmen.
Yeah,
and just a great story of putting some music together that was really important to Mississippi. And it's coming from the roots of the Delta, I might add. So it's a great story. You ought to go take a look at it. Anyway, we'll come back with Steve Azar after this. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have my friend Steve Azar. We're going to talk about the Mockingbird Songwriters Festival coming up here in just a second. But Steve, it's been fun watching your work for Pearl River Resort. And all this branded merchandise you're doing, and Dancing Rabbit, the work that you're doing for Dancing Rabbit. In fact, I wanted to mention to you that I know that's a Tom Fazio design course, as is the Fallen Oaks down here in coastal Mississippi. That's part of Beau Rivage. And once I had the opportunity to have dinner with the president of the Beau Rivage, Tom Fazio, Haley Barber, and me, just the four of us for dinner. And it was some of the most fascinating conversations I have ever heard.
Between the three of you, I would have loved to have been that fly hanging out next to you.
Tom Fazio is an interesting character, and he's extremely connected. So the stories he tells, and he's super creative. But have you had the opportunity to meet him before?
I've been in the room with him at a charity event years ago when doing with Arnold Palmer, but I didn't say a word to him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just didn't get around to it.
Dancing Rabbit's a good course, though, isn't it?
Are you kidding me? I was there filming a spot the other day, and I said, "How is it so beautifully green already?" The azaleas were all blooming. I mean, and we had some cold weather coming. I said, "Please, somebody cover them up." They go, "There's too many to cover up." So many. It's a treasure, man, in our state. It's gorgeous, and I've been so just moved. I've had the most fun getting to know Chief Cyrus Ben, a great guy. Spent a lot of time with him. He came down and hunted with my doctor buddy down here on the river, and we all went out together to dinner, just getting to know him. Really love him, and my guys Matt and Ryan, everybody there, man. I've just really become good friends with everybody, and so it's just been, the times in your life that you start on a journey with someone, and you feel like, well, where will it go? I didn't anticipate it to be such a beautiful relationship, and I'm so grateful for those guys.
Well, you're a spokesman. You're doing branded merchandise. You've actually recut I Don't Have to Meet Me Till Monday. So tell me about that.
Well, we had to relive it. It had to sound like it did, and it's like Gwen, my wife. She goes, I don't know the difference. And I go, that's the whole point. She goes, well, didn't you want to do it a little different? And I said, we wanted to match it. The fact that we could match that record 20 years later, are you kidding? I sang in this, my mic is right here to my left. It's the same mic I sang in on that record is sitting right here. And so a lot of that's the mic. The good Lord, thank goodness, when they operated on my voice, the doctor in 2005, he gave me my voice back. So it was equally as strong, and all the timbers are still there. And So I thank him and I thank God for keeping me in the game with that. But with all that said, it was a fun process because same steel player, a lot of the same stuff. And we said, can we recreate it? And we did. We added some more reverb to this one, made it a little more verby. So it's got a little bit of different textures, but we nailed it pretty good.
So one other thing before we get to the Mockingbirds songwriters, and it's really relevant to coastal Mississippi, but you had the opportunity to be a VIP at Mardi Gras. How was that? Was that a great experience?
Man, the Grand Marshal, are you kidding me? Said, hey, you'll love this. So this is great. So we brought a bunch of our friends, and one of our friends, she's from New Orleans, and her mom owns bars in the quarter, so she's a NOLA girl, right? Dr. Brozovich and Rhonda, they're dear, dear friends of ours. My buddy Ken and Ginger, Mickey, Beth, I'm going to say their names, Tim and Angie, they all came with us, and they had to sit in the stands because they couldn't be with us. So I had our son Adrian, his girlfriend Sydney, who are both in med school in Jackson, and we called him, and then Adrian's roommate as well. And so we were all together, and we only thought we could have 5 of us on the float. It was a huge float. So I looked at Kendall, Adrian's roommate, and my wife, and I said, why can't we ask them all to come on this float? This is huge. All these beads. And then we have to unpack our own beads. I didn't understand that. That was a lot of work. So they said yes, and you should have seen them coming running. I mean, they were exhausted. They probably ran a half a mile with coolers and all this. Rhonda gets on there because she's so NOLA and understands Mardi Gras. She goes, here's what we're going to do. We got pictures of her pointing at us and doing this and video, and she led the way. And I'm going to tell you, I've never seen people get so excited for beads. The only thing is when you're throwing beads, and we were working on our backhand and all that, working on things, and we were nailing it. They're so excited and they're freaking out. Please give me some beads. But the minute they get them, they forget about you and they're looking down the street. You're an afterthought, So it's so funny. But I'm telling you, there was 100,000 people. They said it was a beautiful night. Like it could not have. It was the Chamber of Commerce weather, the Gulf Coast. I mean, it was shining that night. It was awesome to be a part of that, and I was very grateful. And I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, what a great cultural experience. I used to love riding, and I used to say, if you really want to get to know the heart and soul of Mississippi or coastal Mississippi, go ride in a Mardi Gras parade and get to see the excitement of the people who were there. Yeah. Just so much fun.
Big hug. It's like one hug.
Yeah. And all your friends got to be on the float. What a great experience.
Oh, loved it. They loved it.
Hey, listen, the Mockingbird Songwriters Music Festival in Leland. It is first of all, the gin at Dunleith is just a terrific. It's like the perfect spot to have this. It's a cozy setting, and you bring some of the best songwriters in the United States there that represent an untold number of number one hits, and they get to tell you the story behind their songwriting. You recognize just about every song that's played. What a great experience that is.
Well, you're 2 for 2 so far, and I love it. We want to grow a little bit more. And when I say a little more, I'm saying a few hundred more people, because what we don't want to do is lose the intimacy of the songwriters not hanging. Everybody, there's a lot of VIPs at this thing. So we're going to move the first night inside the gin this year. We thought because the cold weather drove us in last year, it really worked out. And it's packed. And then we go outside. We're going to do day 2. And if weather messes up, we can be inside. But we're hoping for great weather on day 2. But I'm telling you, man, the songwriters we're bringing in, from Hootie and the Blowfish, Darius Rucker, to Chris Stapleton, to Willie Nelson, to Martina McBride, to Joe Bonamassa, the hits, it's insane what my buddies have written. And they're coming in. There's 16 of them, I think, this year. And there's hundreds of hits. You can't count them. So if you consider a top 20 hit, which a top 40 is a hit, but the top 10s and top 20s, including all the number ones, it's insane. So I always say it, if you've never heard the song until you've heard where it was born, you've never heard it until you've heard the story and the mouth that created it, where it came from, the soul and heart. And that moment that the songwriter helps you, they take you back into that moment when it all happened and how it got cut by some big act, Keith Urban and Brad Paisley, whatever, Carrie Underwood, how they recorded it, and it's their song, So, I've always written what I've done, And I've had folks like Reba record my songs, and a bunch of other artists now have cut my songs. And I do, but I'm all about me and my songs. These guys are all about their songs with everybody else. And they're the best. They're extremely intelligent. They come from humble beginnings with this wild imagination. A lot of them grew up on farms, small towns, had big dreams. And when you have a minute to blossom in these small places, and you probably have a stick to play with, creativity lends itself for an opportunity. And man, they've taken advantage of it, and it becomes worldly. It's wild.
So the Gin at Dunleith is actually a farm, and it's situated between Indianola and Greenville.
Yep.
And you could say it's out in the middle of nowhere, but it's really not that far from either location. It's just wonderfully situated out on the plains of the Delta with all this farm land around it. And, imagine, a stage and songwriters and acoustic setting up together 3 or 4 at a time and playing together and singing their song and telling the story and just sort of alternating between them. And, in some cases, you hear a lot of amazing songs that you literally have heard on the radio many times.
Yeah.
Man, you don't have time to tell the story of every song that they've written because these guys have been prolific, like James, for example. Prolific.
God. Come on, Ain't That Lonely Yet, Dwight Yoakam, Broken Wing, Martina McBride, In a Week or Two, Diamond Rio, all these Joe Bonamassa songs in the blues world. He's been ruling for the last 3 albums. I was going to tell you that there's another ticket link, but the easiest way to go is just go to steveazar.com/Mockingbird. It'll take you to both tickets, the VIP and the regular general admission. Cheap ticket for the whole weekend. It's BYOB. You bring your stadium chair. We've got food trucks. You've been there. It's just laid back, but steveazar.com/Mockingbird. That'll take you where you want to go.
Speaking of Martina McBride and Broken Wings, I had the opportunity to go spend some time with the leadership at the Coast Coliseum recently when the Judd's, final tour came through.
Sure.
And Martina opened, and when she sang Broken Wings, you're talking about the Coliseum was full of people. Everyone's singing along. That song you're talking about standing the test of time. That song has stood the test of time, hasn't it?
Wait until you get to sit there and just get to sit right next to James. I've written so many songs with James, but I'm telling you, when he sits there and he plays it, and I love Martina, but it's better than Martina. It is.
Yeah, he's a great, like you, a really good guitar player.
He's really good. Yeah.
Really good. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Steve Azar. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Coast Vue with my good friend Steve Azar. We were talking about a wonderful singer-songwriter named Zoe, who I met last year at the Mockingbird Songwriters Music Festival. And she's literally from Australia. She came here to have some wonderful musical collaborations and has, it's going to be interesting. She's already made it kind of in Australia, right, Steve?
Yeah, she has. Her family band has won awards. I mean, it's a whole family, and it's interesting. But she came over. James House has taken her under his wing, and really not broken wing, his wing that's not broken, and he's really done a great job. They're making hay. I've got this kid named Drew Pulliam that I'm working with. It's a high school kid. His 3rd single's out right now. Folks have got to check him out. 17 years old. It's like Buddy Holly meets Paul Simon meets the Everly Brothers, but meets the Avett Brothers and the band Fun. He's his own guy. And then Tyler Tisdale, we're putting new music out on him from South Mississippi. So it's been so much fun to watch these young artists come into their own. Tyler's going to be touring all over the country his first time this summer. So we're making hay. And Drew, I forget, he's probably in social studies class. And I'm trying to get him to do a post. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the music business. What are you doing? He goes, I'm in class. Oh, I forgot you're in high school.
Yeah, I felt a little Harry Connick Jr. vibe to his voice.
Yeah, I get it. He does.
Kind of an old soul.
He is. And I love finding this talent and nurturing it and being a part of it because it's as exciting as me working on my own music, if not more, Yeah.
And so that was Drew, but Tyler Tisdale is more sort of the Chris Stapleton kind of.
Yeah. He comes from that Americana world. He's got the gritty voice. Here's a beautiful thing about Tyler. He's got fiddle, but it's more violinish in his songs. And the way Tyler writes, I call it, sorry, Tyler, if you're listening, Beauty and the Beast, meaning he's a big old muscular, big old boy, a lineman, big beard and all that. But when the beautiful melodies that he writes matches that burly looking, real man looking, tough guy and voice, and the two collide, it's so beautiful. So, I mean, it's what works with him. So a beautiful melody and words meets his tough, exterior. And when it's what makes him him.
Yeah.
And he just wrote something the other day that he played for me. And I just threw a verse out and threw it at the end and said, Tyler, this is what I'm talking about. It's so moving. All we got to do is go and record it. It's unbelievable. It's beautiful.
Steve, my wife Ann and I like to watch American Idol. We have over many years. Yeah. I think the current judges are the best they've had in a long time. They do a great job at telling the story. And in an interview that they were giving, I don't remember if it was Lionel who said it, but the thing, it actually was Lionel, for a matter of fact. He said that it's the most gratifying, most important thing he's ever been involved with in all of his career. This opportunity to be able to work with artists and bring them along. And what I've noticed in this show, same in your world, is that those who write their own music, those that are inspired, that bring something uniquely different, who have a story, that have passion, those are the ones who succeed today. You got to have more than just a great voice. That's really the way it is, isn't it?
Let me tell you what you just said is spot on. And you've got to add this incredibly intense work ethic, meaning I promise you, every great artist I've spent time with, toured with Bob Seger, everybody, all my Reba, spending time with her, anybody that I've been around, all my songwriter buddies, all my artist buddies, Darius, all the guys I've spent time with, all the Blowfish, Mark, Dean and Sony, everything rings true. Nobody worked harder. Nobody. So you can take all this talent, and if you don't work as hard, somebody with less talent will pass you. And so it's not about squeaky oil, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's truly the person that works the hardest. And if somebody calls you a hustler or you're hustling, hell yeah, you're hustling. You dang right, because I want this. And so you cannot work hard enough. So great athletes, same thing, right? How hard do they have to work to be a great athlete and to hopefully stay healthy and make it in the NFL world or in the NBA, or to be a professional baseball player or soccer player, whatever it is that you do, golfer and all that? It's insane the work they put in. And it's not by accident. It's just not by accident.
I think of Billie Eilish, what she and her brother have accomplished. I noticed the other day, buddy, she has over 100 million followers on Instagram.
Think about that.
Golly, Pete.
Million.
Think of the influence. And talking about work ethic, you see the documentary on them working together, writing their music in that bedroom, and just.
It reminds you a little bit of the Carpenters in your mind, just the camaraderie of them too. How great it was.
Yeah,
but great.
Man, oh man. So we're coming to the end of the segment. It's been great to visit with you. Give the details on the Mockingbird Songwriters Music Festival one last time.
Go to my website. I'm not trying to drive anybody there. Enough is enough. But steveazar.com/Mockingbird will take you straight to the tickets. And come hang with us. There is no separate. We're all hanging together. It's just fun. And get to see and know the guys that wrote and girls that wrote some of the biggest hits in the world. It'll be right there, April 14 and 15 in Leland.
Make a weekend of it. You'll be glad you did. It is, again, I've been the last 2 years. I'll be again this year if we can make the calendar work. It's just an amazing experience. Great opportunity to visit with some wonderful friends and get to know the songwriters, by the way. They
your red carpet right there on the Janet Dunleith waiting for you.
Yeah, it's just so cool. So cool. Anyway, it's been Steve Azar, the singer-songwriter and the music ambassador for the state of Mississippi, the guy who wrote One Mississippi, the new state song from Mississippi. It's been a great opportunity to catch up. Have a great day, my friend.
Love you, brother.
You too, man. Love you very much. You're a good man. See you later.